The morning the young settler woman arrived at the ranch, she carried everything she owned in a small wooden trunk, a faded cooking basket, and a sentence she had repeated to herself so many times that it had begun to feel like a fact. She stopped at the ranch gate beneath the bright afternoon sky, looked at the enormous field stretching toward the distant hills, and whispered, almost ashamed of being heard, "No one loves a girl like me, sir, but I can cook." What she did not know was that the rancher standing a few yards away had already noticed something far more important than her appearance. He had noticed the way she held herself together after a journey that had clearly exhausted her. He had noticed the careful way she protected the little wooden trunk at her side. Most of all, he had noticed that behind her nervous eyes was the look of someone who had spent years believing she had to earn the right to belong. If you enjoy emotional stories about kindness, second chances, and people discovering their worth, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner 2.0 if you believe in kindness and second chances. Your support helps stories like this reach someone who may need the same reminder. The rancher's name was Calder Whitmore, a quiet 38-year-old widower who owned a large cattle ranch surrounded by open prairie, cottonwood trees, and rolling green hills. Calder had never been interested in appearances. Life had taught him that a polished smile could hide a dishonest heart, while a tired face could belong to the most dependable person in the world. Since losing his wife several years earlier, he had lived mostly for his work and his 11-year-old daughter, Elsie. Their ranch was successful, but the house had become strangely silent. Meals were often simple, conversations were brief, and the kitchen that had once been filled with warmth now seemed almost forgotten. The woman at the gate was named Maribel Hartwell. She was 26, strong, capable, and carrying years of hurt behind a gentle expression. She had grown up in a small settlement where people were quick to judge anyone who looked different from their idea of perfection. Maribel had learned early that people could turn a harmless meal into a cruel joke and a simple dress into a reason for gossip. She loved cooking because it was the one place where nobody could tell her that she did not belong. When she cooked, people stopped staring and started smiling. When she baked bread, the whole room smelled like home. When she prepared stew, even strangers asked for another bowl. But after her mother died, Maribel had lost the only person who constantly reminded her that she was more than other people's opinions. She began traveling from town to town, taking whatever work she could find. Some employers appreciated her skills. Others made jokes about her appearance, paid her unfairly, or treated her as though she should be grateful for any opportunity at all. Eventually, she heard that Calder Whitmore was looking for someone to manage the ranch kitchen. The position included food, lodging, and a small wage. It sounded like a chance to start over. Calder walked toward her and stopped beside the gate. Maribel immediately lowered her eyes. She expected him to inspect her the way previous employers had. Instead, he simply asked whether she had eaten that day. The question surprised her so much that she forgot to answer. Calder noticed the hesitation and told her that the ranch kitchen was empty, the pantry was full, and if she wanted the position, she could start by making whatever meal she believed the ranch needed. Maribel looked at him uncertainly and explained that she knew how to cook, but she did not know whether someone like her belonged in a respectable ranch house. Calder's expression changed when he heard that. He told her that the ranch needed someone dependable, not someone who fit an imaginary picture in another person's head. Maribel accepted the position that afternoon. Within a week, the ranch began to change. The smell of fresh bread drifted through the house in the morning. Soup simmered on the stove during cold evenings. Biscuits appeared beside breakfast plates, and even the ranch hands began lingering around the kitchen because Maribel's food reminded them of home. Elsie was the first person to become completely attached to her. The little girl often sat at the kitchen table doing her schoolwork while Maribel prepared dinner. They discovered that they both loved cinnamon apples, old adventure books, and listening to rain against the windows. But Maribel still carried her old fear. Whenever someone complimented her cooking, she thanked them quickly and changed the subject. Whenever Calder looked at her for too long, she assumed he was judging her. She had become so accustomed to expecting rejection that kindness itself made her nervous. One afternoon, a traveling merchant arrived at the ranch with several supplies. While speaking with Calder near the barn, he glanced toward the kitchen and made a careless remark about the woman working there. Calder's expression hardened immediately. He told the merchant that Maribel was one of the most capable people on the ranch and that disrespect would not be tolerated. The merchant apologized, but Maribel had heard enough from the doorway. That evening, she packed her trunk. She told herself she was leaving before she could be rejected again. She had seen the embarrassment on Calder's face, or at least she imagined she had. She believed she had made the ranch uncomfortable simply by being herself. Before sunrise the next morning, Maribel walked toward the gate. But Elsie found her. The little girl stood in the doorway holding the wooden spoon Maribel had given her and asked why she was leaving. Maribel tried to explain that some people did not think she belonged there. Elsie's eyes filled with confusion. She told Maribel that she had never cared what she looked like. She cared that Maribel listened to her stories, remembered her favorite breakfast, and made the house feel warm again. Calder arrived moments later. He did not ask Maribel to stay because he needed a cook. He told her that the ranch was better because she was there. He said that he had watched her quietly repair broken routines, encourage tired workers, teach Elsie patience, and turn ordinary ingredients into meals that brought everyone to the same table. He told her that none of those things had anything to do with appearance. Maribel finally admitted how deeply other people's words had affected her. She said she had spent years believing that she needed to become someone else before she could be loved or respected. Calder listened without interrupting. Then he told her something she would remember for the rest of her life. He said that a person's value was not a measurement, a dress size, a reflection in a mirror, or somebody else's opinion. It was found in character, courage, kindness, loyalty, and the way a person treated others when nobody was watching. He told her that if she stayed, she would never again be expected to prove that she deserved a place at the ranch. Maribel cried then, not because she was broken, but because someone had finally spoken to the part of her that had been tired of defending itself. She stayed. Months passed, and the ranch flourished. Maribel began growing vegetables beside the kitchen. Elsie helped her plant tomatoes and herbs. The ranch hands built a larger dining table because everyone had started eating together. On Sundays, neighbors came for meals, and Maribel discovered something she had almost forgotten: people could gather around her without judging her. They came because they enjoyed her company, her laughter, and the warmth she created. Calder and Maribel slowly became close friends. Their relationship was built not on sudden promises or appearances, but on trust. They talked while repairing fences, shared quiet mornings over coffee, and laughed when Elsie attempted to bake her first cake and accidentally covered the kitchen in flour. 1 year after Maribel arrived, Calder organized a community harvest dinner. Everyone gathered beneath the clear afternoon sky, with long tables stretching across the ranch yard. Maribel had prepared dozens of dishes, but before anyone began eating, Calder stood and thanked her publicly. He said the ranch had always been a place where people worked hard, but Maribel had reminded them that a home was something different. A home was where people felt safe enough to be themselves. Maribel looked around at the smiling faces and realized she no longer felt like the frightened woman standing outside the ranch gate. She belonged. Later that evening, Elsie handed Maribel a small wooden sign she had painted herself. It read, "The heart of our home." Maribel held it against her chest and cried. Not because someone had finally chosen her for how she looked, but because she had learned that she never needed to be chosen for that reason in the first place. Years later, whenever someone asked Maribel how she found the courage to change her life, she always remembered that first afternoon. She remembered standing at the gate with her trunk, her cooking basket, and the belief that she had little to offer except food. But Calder had seen something she could not yet see in herself. He had seen a woman who was loyal, talented, compassionate, hardworking, and worthy of respect simply because she was human. And that became the greatest recipe Maribel ever learned: never measure your worth using someone else's scale. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who may need to hear this message, and subscribe to Kindness Corner 2.0 for more stories about kindness, courage, and second chances. And before the story ends, leave a special comment: I am worthy just as I am. Let those words be a reminder to anyone reading them that their value was never something another person had the power to give or take away. Because sometimes the person who arrives believing they have nothing to offer is the very person who brings warmth back into an entire home.